In August of this year, we got the release of Sonic Mania, a tremendously fun game that after years of mostly mediocre to bad Sonic games, it reminded us of what we loved about Sonic the Hedgehog to begin with. It was a back-to-basics game, taking elements from all kinds of Sonic games, from the original to Sonic & Knuckles to Sonic CD. It took familiar levels and expanded upon them, giving us new twists and surprises that played with our expectations of how these levels are supposed to work. I would be perfectly content with Sonic Mania being the last Sonic release of 2017, but now we've got Sonic Forces, which is wildly, okay. Like Super Mario Odyssey, the game begins with Sonic getting his ass handed to him, only instead of Cappy, we get a resistance force that's assembled months later after a Dr. Robotnik world takeover. This could lead you to believe that it would be like a dark, post-apocalyptic Sonic game, especially with imagery like this, but it really isn't. It's still pretty cheesy, which makes it unintentionally hilarious when you have lines like, "With Sonic gone, Tails has completely lost it!" Or, "They're keeping Sonic in a solitary confinement cell. Eggman's been torturing him for months." Torturing Sonic to pass the time? That's low even for Eggman. What? What are they doing to him? In the game, you play as new Sonic, classic-ish Sonic, and your own customized avatar, which clearly gave me an excuse to play as Lloyd. You start out butt naked, and then gain clothes as the game goes on, which makes it like a weird Sonic reverse strip poker. Oh, and don't worry, instead of just simply saying new clothing items available, it shows you every piece of new clothing after every level. Essentially, I was given the choice of remaining naked or dress my character up as a tool, so I gave him a bodysuit and a helmet. Lloyd disapproved. I highly recommend playing the game on hard, because if you play it on easy, it'll stop the gameplay about every 5 seconds to give you such helpful tips as, press this button to jump. The tips are so obvious, I'm surprised they didn't stop the game to tell me how to breathe. The gameplay feels like it could be called Sonic 4 Part 2, The Return of Sonic Generations. The best parts of the game are when you're a classic Sonic in a 3D side-scroller, but whereas something like New Super Mario Bros. Felt fresh in combining those two elements and it was still very, very, very playable, this one feels more like a hindrance and simply makes you wish you were just playing Sonic Mania instead. Most of the other gameplay is more or less a quick time rail game. You can get new weapons as your avatar, but honestly, I got by just fine by spending a majority of the time hitting the jump button, and switching from 3D to side-scrolling can be such a shift that it would take me about 3 tries to jump to a platform that is just like a foot in front of my character. And speaking of dying, do you like those Sonic puns? Because if you die, you'll hear them repeated over and over and over again. Green Hill, more like Sand Hill. Green Hill, more like Sand Hill. I sure like a water slide. I sure like a water slide. Let's get off this ship. Not enough land. Let's get off this ship. Not enough land. And it doesn't help that the soundtrack to the game feels like my neighbor is blasting really bad club music for some reason. I was never hating this game, but I started getting bored with it really fast. It's a game that you could play for like an hour to kill some time, and then feel like you have no reason to go back to it later, unless you need another hour to kill. Just play Sonic Mania. It's right there. It's much cheaper. It's more satisfying and more addicting, even if it doesn't have lines about Sonic being tortured for months!